Welcome to the Flicks Forum podcast, where each episode we go back and we look at a Netflix original film in the order of release. Today we have Netflix 92nd film. It's the 2018 romantic comedy Set It Up. It's directed by Claire Scanlon and it stars Zoey Deutch, Glen Powell, Taye Diggs, and Lucy Liu. I'm Jesse and joined on the line with MJ. How you doing?
I'm very well, Jesse. How are you?
Good. I tried not to screw up Zoe's name. I've been practicing it all week,
I
just
could
in
almost
case.
hear like a hint of laughter when you said it, because like you knew that I was listening for you to stuff it up again.
I was waiting to see if there was going to be a giggle from your end to be like, you still stuffed it anyway.
You nailed it. As far as I know, you nailed it.
Yeah. Well, anyway, if it's wrong, please let us know. I don't mind. I'm used to stuffing words up. But yeah, so we're back for our 92nd film. We're edging very close to that big magic 100.
So yeah, we're looking forward to raising the bat.
It's going to be very, very exciting. So only 8 episodes to go, and we've
got to get there first, though. Don't count your chickens.
Correct. Good. Netflix might go under or something. Who knows? And we won't be able to access the films. I doubt it.
Because Netflix is in a real tricky situation financially at the moment. They're just really struggling.
They are. Their debt's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So if the creditors come and say we want our money back, what's going to happen? Who knows? But we'll get into this one, and we start off with our fast flicks. So this is where we give our own little summary of the film. MJ, give us your fast flicks for Set It Up.
It is a romantic comedy with all the tropes and cliches you would expect, but raised to another level due to the infectious charisma and mouth-watering connection of the two leads.
Ooh, very juicy. It's very, very juicy. Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you've said there. So that's good. But I haven't mentioned any of those things. I've just said it's about two workaholics who decide to set their bosses up so they can get their own downtime.
That's it.
That
is the motivation for what happens in the film.
Yeah, good. So that's my basic plot line. Now we'll jump into what we can figure out about the film or what we've learnt about it. So what have you got on this film for us, MJ?
Yeah, there's probably less than we might have had in other films. I think it seems like a pretty much straight up and down kind of process to getting to where it got. But it was February 2016 when Katie Silberman was writing the screenplay, and Treehouse Pictures was producing this, and MGM was actually distributing. And at that point in time, Emilia Clarke from Game of Thrones was slated to play the lead role. Would have been a very different movie with Khaleesi in that role.
Well, she's done a couple of rom-coms herself in the time since, I guess. So yeah, the Me and Before You, I think, wasn't it?
And also the Christmas one that she did with Henry Golding. Yeah. I could see her playing a similar sort of role in that. So it would have worked. It definitely would have worked well.
We saw that Last Christmas together, I think.
We did with our respective partners.
Yeah, good. It wasn't just to date the two of us.
I didn't mind that movie. It was all right.
Yeah, it was all right. It wasn't bad.
So that was February 2016. By March 2017, it's about a year later, Zoey Deutch had replaced Emilia Clarke. Glen Powell was also announced as the other lead, and Claire Scanlon had come on as the director. And by that point, Netflix eventually replaced MGM as the distributor. So this movie became a Netflix original movie before that actually started filming. And then a few months later, in June, principal photography began in New York City once Lucy Liu and Taye Diggs joined the cast. And then it was released on Netflix basically a year later in June 2018.
Yeah, this one did have a premiere in New York as well, obviously filmed in and around there. So a couple of days before Netflix, they had a cinematic premiere, which is nice to hear every now and then from some of the Netflix films that we see.
Yeah, this would have been nice. I would have enjoyed watching this in the cinema.
Yeah, the director, was it Claire Scanlon? Has also said, in a couple of interviews that she's open to the idea for a sequel if Netflix decide they want one. So we could see maybe these characters again, or...
Well, I also believe that she's at loggerheads with Katie Silberman, the writer. So I think Claire Scanlon, and I could get them mixed up with what they both want. But I think Claire Scanlon wants to explore Kirsten more, so the Lucy Liu character, and go into that story in a sequel. Whereas Katie Silberman, who, if she was slated to write it, wants to still sort of revolve around Glen Powell and Zoey Deutch's character about, I think, potentially them setting someone else up or something like that. So
Yeah.
who knows where that
It's
will
an
land?
well, it's an interesting idea too because I can see where they're both coming from as well. Because if you have a film led by Lucy Liu, then you're going to get some good numbers on it. But then again, the like you mentioned in your fast flicks, the premise of these two main leads, they work so well together. So
Yeah,
that would be very intriguing too.
it would be interesting, and who knows? Netflix might not even be entertaining the idea. And plus, you know what? A lot of these, Glenn Powell and Zoe Deutch are slowly going on to bigger and better things. And whether they want to go back for a Netflix sequel, who knows?
Yeah. I had a Netflix percentage match for this one. It's been a while
Me
since I've
too.
got
Yeah,
a
and it has been
match.
a
Oh,
while.
did you get one?
I did. Yeah, so
Oh,
I was
good.
watching on my TV and my login.
I'm intrigued. What did you get?
85%.
Oh wow, good. Yeah,
It's a
well,
good
I
one.
got
Yeah.
59, so a little bit lower.
Oh.
That's fairly low for a
Uh,
percentage match. But
yeah.
maybe
Jesse doesn't like his love. Doesn't like his romance.
nah. Netflix knows me too well. But yeah, I thought that was interesting that you don't get them very often. So something good to bring up, I guess.
Yeah, I
What
agree. I do like getting one as well. Did you know that Glenn Powell's grandmother was actually in one of the scenes in the crowd at the Yankees when they were at the Yankee Stadium?
I did
I
see
love
that. I
that.
thought that
That's awesome. If
just
I was an
bring in your family.
actor, yeah, if I was an actor and they needed extras for a day or half a day, and my grandma was like, "I'd love to be in the crowd here," I'd be like, "Done." And Glenn Powell strikes me as the kind of guy that would be all over that too. So I really
And
enjoy
your
that.
your your grandma would be great value in it as well. Like I'd pay money just to see her in the scene. That'd be great.
Do you know what's
Oh,
interesting is my grandma has been an extra in a movie, and this is just ringing bells with you now. Like probably like 10 years ago, my grandparents are both retired, and one of those things where they were filming something in Melbourne, and they put their hand up to be an extra, and Nan was, I don't even know what the film was, but Nan was sitting next to the lead character in like a cinema, and he had to stand up and do something, and she had to like act shocked next to him. So there you go. My grandma
how do
has
I
been
know?
an extra.
You need to find out what this film is so we can
I
check this
don't think
footage
she
out.
even knows. That's the problem. I've never seen it. I'm only going off what she's told me. I
So we can't find her on IMDb or anything. That's the
No, and you know what? Nan's the worst because Nan loves movies, and obviously she's retired. She watches a lot of movies now, and she can never remember the name of them. So I'm always she's like, I watched this movie and it was great, and this happened, but she has no idea what the movie title is. So there's no way she's
need,
going to be figuring this one out.
need to set her up with a Letterboxd account, and then we can keep track of what she's
No,
watching.
mate, no,
Too much.
no. It's I try. She's got a Netflix account, and even then, she doesn't know how to watch anything that's not like on the main screen. So.
Bummer. That's all right. That's good. What about some of the consensus for this one? What were you able to find on the audience and the critics?
Yeah, I think they liked it. It's got a 6.5 out of 10 on Letterboxd, off 38,000 ratings. So 6.5, it's a good score, right?
Yeah.
You're not talking in any kind of Oscar category for that, but for a rom com, that's pretty good when these can be pretty jarring. And that number is surprisingly reflective on Letterboxd as well, with a 3.2 out of 5 off 33,000 ratings. So our Letterbox fans, our more filmy audience, as I like to call them, they're kind of all over it as well.
Good. Yeah. The Google users liked this one as well. They had it at 93%, which is
Ooh, that's
very, very
large.
high. And Rotten Tomatoes, also the critics. This one was certified fresh. It had 59 reviews on 92%. So
92,
very,
set it up.
very, 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 very high. But the audience was skewed quite lower, down on 69%.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and that was on about 1,200 reviews. So, yeah, bit of a difference in that. But yeah, obviously the critics loved this one. I thought it was really, really good.
Yeah, across the board, it's generally enjoyed. I don't think there's many people that are walking out of this film or turning off this film, going, "Well, that was a waste of time."
Yeah. Okay. So I think then you can give me your early thoughts on this one then before we get into the crux of the film and start to spoil it. So as usual, if you do want to watch this film, give us a pause, go watch it, come back because MJ is going to give us his thoughts on this one.
I will. We've been segueing really well so far. This is a good start.
It's gone very smoothly. I
Quite
like
seamless.
it.
Look, this whole premise in general was really, really predictable, and it kind of went in its own direction with the granular details of the story, which I did appreciate. We all knew where this was going to end, right? But I didn't even care because I loved this movie. I was
Okay.
so drawn to the two leads in this. I really like Glen Powell in general, and I was excited to see him in a lead role. So I was kind of already started in this film in a really good spot, and Zoey Deutch won me over almost immediately. So from then on, I was just in the safest of hands because there wasn't really a scene that was wasted because I got to spend time with both of them. Um, I thought it was genuinely funny, particularly the first 45 minutes. I was actually laughing out loud and just having the best time watching this movie by myself. I
Okay,
think I think it's a gem.
good. I'm glad. This was one of the ones that I sort of predicted that that was where you're going to be at. I think.
Yeah,
So that's good.
it was up my alley.
Yeah, I was a little bit disappointed in this one.
I thought you were.
Yeah, I think it was recently mentioned on the Big Picture podcast as one of the better sort of Netflix films, but I don't think it was that hype or that that gratification that disappointed me. I think it more comes down to this type of film's probably not my sort of favorite genre of film. I think that was more of it. I thought, I did think the leads were excellent, and I thought the
Mm,
chemistry on screen for them was great. I thought they held this film up really, really well. But like you mentioned, the narrative for me was just so by the book, and it was
mm.
just to me it was just plain and simple, and it was just okay. But yeah, I think that the performances from the main two was great, but story wise, didn't really draw me in probably as much as it may have for you.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And it's funny to sort of discover that sometimes the story in these things actually doesn't matter as much if you take and sorry for me if you're taken
Mm,
on this journey and it's just if you are writing or trying to make a rom-com, you don't necessarily because people watch a rom-com to feel a certain way and to that real it's proper escapism, but it's also that somewhat grounded in reality that people can sort of just float away with it and enjoy it. That the story itself doesn't have to be groundbreaking, but
mm,
the chemistry, oh my god, if you get the chemistry wrong in a rom-com, you might as well not even start. So
yeah.
it's a really good point that you make.
Well, and like I'm coming from the just because I didn't enjoy it doesn't mean I can't see the good things in it why other
Mm,
people would enjoy it too. So
yeah,
it's not like that I absolutely hated this or anything. It was an okay film for me. Like it was made well, cast were good. It didn't have any of those cheap sort of looks that we've seen from a lot of the rom
yeah,
coms on Netflix. I guess like this one actually felt like it could have been on at the cinema. Like it could have been one of
yeah,
those
it did, didn't it?
Valentine's Day movies that they release on
Absolutely,
or in
yeah.
Feb for people to go see. So I thought the production values were really good, but yeah, just not necessarily didn't hook me. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, no, I get it. I totally get it.
All right, time for some characters. So I want you to give me your favorite character from this one, MJ, and fill me in on what your thoughts on
Well, I don't have a favorite. I got a favorite too. I've
them.
made that really
Favorite
clear.
two. Good.
um, I will. Like, to be honest, we'll start with Harper, but I like the fact we can almost talk about. I like talking about them as a couple as well, because I like the fact that despite Harper and Charlie were in really similar positions, they weren't in the exact same position, and that could have been a really easy thing for them to put. Sorry, an easy place to put them. They're in this exact same position, and they got to get out of this exact same position. So Harper like had these tangible goals, and her current role put her in a position to reach that. Whereas on the flip side, Charlie was definitely just doing the job because he thought that's what he should have been doing. He wanted to get
Yeah.
paid a lot of money, and he didn't have that sort of dream or goal to get anywhere from it. So I do like that they were on surface they look like they're exactly the same. They're PAs for these people who work crazy long hours and push them to the limit. But deep down they were completely different, and I appreciated that.
Yeah, I think you made a really good point where it's hard to talk about them separately because they did intertwine so much. But yeah, like you said, that it's apart from being PAs, the similarities are very vast.
Yeah.
Sorry, that doesn't make sense. There's no it's very vast in their connection, I guess. Because for me, it felt like that. Harper, her goal is to be this meaningful writer, and with Charlie, his goal is to be financially successful, I guess.
Yeah.
So they do have these separate goals, and I don't know whether this got me, but like they set it up. She wants to be a meaningful writer, but the one piece that she's got in her bag ready to set up is about the geriatric Olympics, like
Mm,
for about senior citizens. To me, I was like, if you're trying to sell it to me that this is your dream, your goal is that you want to be a successful writer. I was like, I was a little bit met. I was like, you need to have like, I just wanted her to have a bigger story or bigger, more meaningful sort of story. And you
Yeah.
sort of
Okay.
see it through. You sort of see it through her that she compared to him, she is massively she's massively sort of prepared and unprepared, where she doesn't have the money to pay for the boss's food, and
Mm.
um, I sort of got these feels that she wasn't quite mature. And you see this like when her best friend Becca's like getting married, and she literally says, oh, we're not old enough to get married. So
Yeah.
I think that
Absolutely.
she just hadn't quite matured to this like to the stage that she needed to be at, which was really nice for me, because then it was nice to see it through the film where she starts to make her own decisions and realizes, I don't want to be like my boss, I want to be someone else. So I did appreciate that and like that, through her story, I guess.
Well, that's kind of relatable too, because we've all like that quote of "we're not ready to get married," as you said, it sums her up perfectly because we've all kind of been there when our friends do something. You're like, "Oh shit, are we supposed to be doing that in our lives now? Is that what we're up to?" And she
Yeah.
was so caught up in her comfort zone, and it's not necessarily a nice comfort zone because she was working her ass off, but she kind of had lost the balls to push herself
Mm.
into what she wanted to do anymore. And she almost forgot how to work hard because she was so good at what she did as a PA that she was on autopilot to some extent. And we've all been there as well. There's something that we really wanted to do, and then we get to a point where we're doing a stepping stone to get there, and we just get stuck on that stepping zone because it's comfortable and we're used to it, and the next step's a little bit too scary. And that's a really easy thing to just sit there and watch and go, "Yep, been there, done that." Don't like it,
Yeah.
but I get it.
Yeah, and
Um,
I think that that's probably why we've both probably connected with her pretty well, because it's familiar, you can see it.
yeah, and
Yeah.
that's it. And you know what? She's actually like super crushable as a young man watching this. She's got that sport link, which I don't know. I just think that's really really great. She's like a true fan, decked out in the Yankees gear. Um, but she's just something so lovable about her that is just so charming. And I spoke about the charisma that both of them had, and she was oozing charisma in this film, and I loved it.
Good. All right, so I think we should talk about Charlie. uh,
Yeah,
so Charlie, for me, this was where it sort of got me a little bit. I From the get go, and I know these are the cliches of the genre, but the relationship he had with his girlfriend, I think was it Suze.
Suze.
It,
Yeah,
it just it just wasn't believable, like, for me at all. And like, from that point where you don't believe his relationship with her, like, and that he's going to end up with Harper at some
yeah.
stage. So to me, any scenes with her and him in it, it was just like meaningless space that was being filled up. And his roommate makes a comment about, she's meant to be your best friend, sort of thing. And they just blatantly put in your face that he's not supposed to be with her. And I guess on top of that, like, this idea that he wants to be like this corporate sort of monster, but he's like a wannabe and that sort of thing. um, but then you do see the contrast between him, because he's so much more organized than Harper. But
Mm.
then Harper's got her own ability to be organized too. So yeah, I was a little bit lost with him, and didn't connect with him as much as I did with Harper.
I think yeah. I mean, I have a little bit of a man crush on Glen Powell, and it's gone through the roof after watching this. I just think he's just really charming in everything he does, and I've probably only seen him in 5 or 6 movies, and never in probably this big a role. He was in Sandcastle that we watched on Netflix,
Yeah.
and he kicked ass in that. I loved him, but um, despite me liking him, and I know the audience is supposed to like him enough as well, he's doing a lot of things wrong, like you kind of said. And like, let's be honest, why do you think he's with Suze? Because she's smoking hot, and
Yeah.
that's that shallow side of him, and it's so clear. Like, he's got this shallow side of him. He's working a job just to get promoted to make more money, and he generally just has selfish motives, and that's really comes to the fore when he finds out that Rick is cheating on Kirsten, and he kind of thought, well, I'm just going to let that slide because it's making my life better. Um, and it's kind of the influence from Harper that doesn't necessarily bring it out of him because it's always in there, but makes him realize that he kind of needs to make these choices in his life that aren't completely motivated by money, class, and
Looks.
appearance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Appearance. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
So that's why
Oh.
they work so well together.
Hmm.
But this is
All
like
right.
the Ryan Reynolds Isla Fisher connection from Definitely Maybe, which I've referenced Definitely Maybe probably 10 times on this podcast because we get a lot of romantic comedies, and for me, that is the pinnacle of romantic comedies. I love Definitely Maybe. I can watch it. I could watch it every week if I had to. And Ryan Reynolds, obviously big movie star. Isla Fisher, pretty big movie star. These two have this palpable connection in Definitely Maybe that these guys came pretty close to, if not came on a par with, and that connection was just everything, and I enjoyed it so much.
Good, good. All right. Did you want to talk about Rick and Kirsten? I guess I think they're
Yeah, for
probably the other
sure.
two sort of people that we need to discuss. What have you got? What are your thoughts on those two?
Yeah, well, so Kirsten, I mean, they're also very different as well. Lucy Liu's great because she has that frightening hardness to her as a boss, but she's also believable when she softens. And I think that's probably just your experience with Lucy Liu, and we've sort of seen her in enough things to know that she can do both really well, that it works. Um, and she is more than just a villain. It's like a semi well-rounded character for this kind of movie where you've got your two leads and that's normally it in a rom-com, but there's enough to this character of Kirsten that makes you think that she's not all that you expect her to be, and that's quietly surprising but satisfying.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like she was so career driven, but deep down you could tell just she was sweet, and I probably found her more attractive than Harper, to be honest. Like to me, I was like, oh, like I found her as the hot look in this film. I don't know why. Maybe
Like a
because
woman in
she's like,
charge, Jesse.
yeah, ESPN sports reporter and all that sort of stuff. But I don't know. I was like, I wanted more scenes with her, to be honest. I wanted to see her more.
Yeah.
Because yeah. Anyway, that's just yeah.
No, I get it. No, she was really good in this because it could have been the most secondary character that just didn't matter, but I think there's enough there. Now, Rick, on the other hand, I mean, I do appreciate the fact that he wasn't just a straight up villain with no redeeming qualities. I mean, he had very, very few redeeming qualities, but there was kind of always that thought or idea that he was okay, especially when he sort of had that drunk rant. Like there was something in him that was okay, and it turned out that he was 95% villain.
Yeah.
But you don't necessarily think that the whole movie, and it's probably not till the end when he rocks up at the house and is like, "Hey man, I need a file on my ex-wife." Where you're like, "This guy," like they don't let you think that he's unredeemable until probably the end, which is probably good.
But that's almost like his redemption as a bad character asking for that file on his wife. It's him actually showing that desire now to want to please her and want to know things about her. Because to me, like his whole character was he just couldn't get over his ex wife, no matter how hard he tried.
Mm,
The
true.
first couple of hissy fits that we see him throw stuff around the office, it's because his ex wife and these types of things. So when Charlie finds out that he is sort of seeing his ex-wife still, it wasn't as massive surprise to me, because I felt this whole time that it was never going to work, because yeah, he had this connection that, and obviously he still had a lot of poor traits that we see throughout the film, that
Yeah.
he wasn't necessarily a nice person, but I think to me that was probably part of his issue.
Yeah, and that's
Mm.
it. But at least he is rounded. And he did have his own story. Like, I remember watching what was that movie? Ibiza. We watched a couple of weeks ago, and the main character's boss in that was just like straight up villain. Like there was nothing good about her because on
Yeah.
paper they didn't bother to care about her outside of those scenes. Whereas all these characters actually existed outside of what we were seeing in the movie, and I think that's something that you need to do if you're going to write a good romantic comedy is make sure that they actually feel real and have their own life and have their own motives and have their own desires, regardless of whether you have to see that on the hour and 45 minutes. It doesn't matter,
Mm.
but you do sense it, you do notice it if it's not there.
Good. All right. Any other characters that you wanted to discuss?
No, not really. Anything for you? I'm happy to talk about them, but there wasn't much more that
Yeah,
stood out.
I'll probably talk about the friends, I guess, a little bit later on in the scenes and stuff,
Yeah.
rather than as characters. So, uh, Claire Scanlon as a director, I
Mm.
thought, just looking at her resume, I know there's only a couple of episodes here and there, but what a list of TV
Oh
that
yeah.
she's done. Like The Office, The Goldbergs, Modern Family, The Good Place, Glow, another Netflix original, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, which is another Netflix show, and also the Choose Your Own Adventure Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt episode that's out this week too. So
Yeah.
lots
No,
of work,
she's
lots of work.
got a lot. So she's obviously, and that's what again what I appreciate about this film is that I thought it was genuinely funny. And here's a director who has got her roots in comedy television,
Mm.
um, and I think it was great. It worked really well.
Yeah,
And
good.
and
All
the
right.
writer Katie Silverman
Yeah.
actually has a writing credit on Booksmart and a
Oh wow.
producer credit on Booksmart, and also writing credit on Isn't It Romantic with Rebel Wilson. So it's not a bad little dream team here.
Yeah, they've got some good work behind them. And if you build that craft up, then then you can make a film like this where you know what you're doing and it looks like you know what you're doing,
Yeah,
which is
exactly.
nice to see sometimes when we get a lot of debut directors on the Netflix originals. Yes, so scene time. I think we're ready to check out some scenes that we liked. So MJ, what are
Yes.
some things in this one that you liked?
Jesse, I'm going to try and fly through this because I have a lot. I'll be honest, I have a lot.
That's okay.
Combination of
Good.
scenes, things that I liked in general, and lines. But first things first, I thought it was a really quick, clear, quirky setup. A story about two PAs who have insane bosses. And you know this straight away. And I really
Mm.
thought that was great. And that rolls into the chemistry that they had in their meet cute. I thought that was amazing when they were ordering the food, as you spoke about, and she didn't have the money. I just loved, as I said, I love them both immediately.
Mm.
Um, we already spoke about it, but I love the line, "We're not old enough to get married," just to show where Harper was at that point.
Yep.
Um, I like the idea of them setting people up and falling in love themselves. And I thought this like 5 minutes in because I knew that was going to happen. It's a simple, it's predictable, but it's kind of a fun enough plot, and I think they made it work really well with these two that I never felt bored on screen with them. So I was more than happy just to watch them keep doing their thing. Um, there's a line where Charlie's talking about things that Rick hates, and he says he hates Jeff spelt with the letter G. I just think that's really funny. um, they had a bit of self-referencing talking about the meet cute about them in the elevator because they just kind of had their own meet cute, and I kind of liked that they were self-referential there. But then
Yep.
that all came with the you don't know Creepy Tim, and then we get introduced to Creepy Tim, and I loved Creepy Tim. I thought he was hilarious. I thought the elevator scene was excellent. Um, with the guy
Have you
taking his
have
clothes off.
you have you ever watched Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt?
No, I haven't.
Well, if you like, so Titus, the guy who plays sorry, his character in Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt's Titus, I think, he is hilarious in that show. So obviously, director from that show is doing this, and obviously, I'm guessing got him on board.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you liked those short little scenes you saw with him as Creepy Tim, you would really enjoy him in Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt
Okay, good
because
to know. And you
he
know what?
is hilarious.
I kind of sit there and think I wish I had more Creepy Tim, but I wonder if more Creepy Tim would have been too much Creepy Tim. So I'll
Yeah,
give
well,
him the benefit of
the
the doubt.
post credit scene with
Yeah.
him was a bit meh anyway, so I think that was perfect. But I did like Creepy Tim as well.
I like that. Um, it was just so fun getting them to do these quirky little chores and to get their bosses to do these things because they got to the point of the film where it would normally get a bit tired and stagnant in a rom com where you feel like they're just filling that second act. I never got that feeling in this film because the things that they were doing were always kind of fun and leading me somewhere. Even though I knew where it was leading me, I kind of liked it. Um, I enjoyed the bikini wax merkin chat. What's a merkin? And then how he said, I missed a time where I didn't know what that was. Again, I think I just love these characters too much.
Yep,
Uh,
I think so too.
and you're gonna hate this when Charlie got told that he was allowed to wait in the lobby, and he kind of had that little strut into the lobby.
Yeah.
Loved it. And I have to say, everything that I've just said then was in the first 45 minutes. And I was honestly just laughing so much in that first 45 minutes. And then things started to get a bit more serious and the romance side came out to it. And I still liked it, but the humor slowed down a little bit.
But it drew
Um,
you in straight away. It's good. That's
oh,
so
yeah.
the back end's not going to be as a bigger struggle for you because you're already
No,
into
that's
it. So
it. Yeah, and that Dire Straits scene where they were playing Romeo and Juliet, I think that was the perfect song. I really just enjoyed them dancing to that song when they finally started to explore those feelings when they were
mm,
dancing at the engagement party. And I love the fact that they didn't kiss. And then
yeah,
I'm also glad they didn't hook up when they were drunk eating that pizza. Very, very happy
yeah,
with that because I didn't want them to do that. It didn't feel like the right timing, and they respected my wishes. So thank you.
good.
Um, there's a line here near the end when he breaks up with Suze and he says, "If my 15-year-old self could see me right now, he would punch me in the dick." And that's what we're talking about. How Charlie's just so shallow. Like the reason with Suze is because she's super hot, and he's banging her because all right, how like this is just a great look for me. This is satisfying so many feelings. But then he got to a point where he's like, "What the hell am I doing with this girl? She's a moron."
Yep.
Um, I forgot about this one. When he's got to go to the airport, and he's like, "Oh, well, I've got 4 hours to go." And then the next scene, he's just having that really mundane conversation. He's like, "Oh my god, I did the over dick around thing." And then I love that they brought that back. It was clever. It showed that he was now kind of on that same wavelength as Harper. Um,
Yep.
and I'm just really glad they delayed their kiss until the end because I didn't want to see a movie of them being a couple for 15 minutes at the end. Didn't matter.
Mm.
I just wanted them to finally figure out they were right for each other and close with that. And then they brought back Creepy Tim watching them, which was a nice finish as well. So I think
Good.
that's probably the most things that I've liked in a film on this podcast. I just kept writing them down, and here we are.
It's good. Yeah. I mean, make it very hard for me to come up with anything else other than what you've said. So it's
True.
very good list of of scenes, and I've got some of the similar sort of ones that you've got. Probably maybe a little bit sort of different sort of reasons. One
Yep.
that you didn't have that this was probably the one laugh that I did have in the film that really got me sort of giggling was when Charlie's worked really really late at night and he rocks up at his girlfriend's place and pages her on the intercom and says, "Oh, I'll wake you up with my penis," and she's not interested, and then there's this bum sitting there and he's like, "You can wake me up with your penis." I had a good laugh at that. I thought that was quite funny.
Good
That was,
sledge.
yeah, yeah, it was great. Yeah, like I said before, just as soon as I saw Creepy Tim on the screen, it was a bit like that one the other week where you see an actor that you recognize for other roles, and you just you're into them straight away because
Yeah.
you like them. The same you mentioned this one as well, the lift scene with the delivery guy being
That was
claustrophobic.
really funny, wasn't it?
Just when he starts to piss, I was like, oh, I can't believe it was
Nah,
that's
man.
good.
As soon as he walked in and you saw this massive guy with no neck, you just knew that it was going to end well. And then when he started taking his shirt off, I'm like, please take your pants off too. Please take your pants off. Like everything. It was just, it was
That's good.
comedy gold.
Yeah, and I did like that back end of that scene you spoke about before, where they end up at the apartment eating the pizza. I just thought that was really sweet, and just like she's like, "I got to go," and then I think his girlfriend starts calling on the phone and just ignores it. So that was just a
Yep.
nice little turning point visually too.
Yeah, good
Good. All
moment.
right. So that's me with my ones that I liked. What are some things? Is there anything in this that you didn't like? I guess is
There's
the
not
question.
much, no.
Oh.
No, this is a nitpick right here, but they kept that scene with the pizza. They kept talking about how it's the best pizza, or the best food they've ever, best meal they've ever had. It looked like a terrible pizza.
Looked like
Like
cardboard.
it, yeah. And why didn't they invest the time into making that a real good pizza? Because they talked so romantically about it, and I was really unfulfilled when I saw it. So that was a missed opportunity.
Yep.
Um, and it was all just a little bit too convenient when he got promoted and then she got to write the story because that was just the moment where they set them up with something that they're actually going to lose now. Because throughout this whole time, they kind of had nothing to lose, really. They were working these really difficult jobs, and I know they both wanted them for other reasons. But when they said, "You're promoted, and I'm going to write your story," it's like, "Oh, this is happening too quickly." I kind of wish they had have been a bit less in your face about that because they just
About that.
set up some stakes because they're like, "Shit, we've got to put the stakes in." Um, so that's the only thing I didn't like apart from the
Good.
pizza.
All right. Yeah, I don't have a lot like because I didn't. It wasn't a bad movie, but
Yeah.
I wasn't a massive fan of any scene that Duncan was in the gay roommate. I just didn't think he really added an awful lot apart from a couple of little like one or two little lines. Um, yeah, just
I agree with
wasn't a
that. He
massive.
didn't really work with
Yeah.
me, but I think he is a comedian, and I
Okay.
believe he is got a decent following. So I kind of feel like they put him in as like another recognizable comedy face that people who do know him would just cling to him straight away. So I can understand that because it felt like
Yeah.
the character wasn't really much of a character, and he probably had
No.
like 10% too many lines than he needed.
Yeah, and like there's the part where they have to climb the ladder to get into the apartment.
Yeah,
Like it could have been funnier if they have just barged straight in and gone whoa, the sort of thing. Like they're just little bits and pieces that I could have seen him be more of a give me more of a laugh, I guess.
yeah.
And there are a lot of jokes in this as well that sort of were misfires for me, and there's the one that you spoke about with the Merkin that was a big misfire for
Oh,
me.
was it? Okay.
Yeah, the intern that gets fired by Rick,
Oh
and
yeah.
he's like called him a pencil dick, and then he's come back with pencils can be all lengths and girths. Like I was like, for a character that used to have one line, it was like just one of those. Yeah,
That was a strong
what
comeback though.
Oh, great comeback. I thought that, and then there was another joke where Harper says, the first guy she slept with came out while he was inside me,
Hmm.
and like everyone knew that
Yeah,
joke, and it just wasn't
yeah.
funny that they had to explain it to her. So that sort of just misfired with me as well. Um, the
But
only
the
other thing
kind of
that,
the delivery of the Glen Powell response to that is
yeah,
just kind of good though. The way he was just like, that's what they're supposed to do, or whatever he said.
yeah,
But you're right; it was obvious what she meant.
was meant, yeah. The only other thing that I wasn't a massive fan, like I liked the seeing the Yankee Stadium. I liked the baseball
Mm,
scene, but the kiss
yeah.
cam thing, I was like, oh come on, this has like been done so many times. Like never been kissed. All these films, you've seen it happen so many times before.
But
Um,
they got me. I was clapping and laughing when they finally kissed because I was so involved. I'm like, they're doing such a good job here. We got to get them to kiss. We got to. Oh, they didn't kiss. Come on, one more time. I was just riding it with them. So I get what you're saying, but the
yeah,
emotion of the scene got the better of me, and I was all in.
reminds me of those the sports games you watch where they've got like a setup in the crowd, and they're the ones that they purposely put there to go back three times, and then you get some over the top response at the end. Like that was just how
Yeah,
it felt. It didn't really sit there very well.
someone
Mm,
dancing or doing something. Yeah, I
yeah,
know what you
so
mean.
you take their shirt off or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I think we're good to talk about some themes and some ideas in this one now. I think this was saying quite a little, like it had quite a few little bits and pieces I think we can discuss. So what have
What
you
do
got?
you think? Because I'll be honest, the things I loved about this film weren't necessarily tied into the themes or messages of it, and I
Yeah.
think it kind of succeeds in spite of any messaging that it does have, because it does have nice messaging, but it's not the reason why I like this film. So there's the idea of like don't lose sight of what's important to you and being true to yourself. But what do you want to explore more here?
Uh, I think that it has a big sort of say about the corporate world, a little bit about work and this sort of ladder or hierarchy of where you're at in the workforce and what's important to you, like with this work life sort of balance. And why are you like why do you put so much effort into a job or something that's not really fulfilling, or why are
Yeah,
you continually allowing yourself to be put down, or doing the rotten sort of jobs that no one wants to do when there's really no, like you can't see yourself progressing any further. So I think they sort of like touched on that a little bit quite nicely. But and that leads into like the goodness of people too, because both these characters, they wanted to do well in their careers, and they got their promotion, they got the article that they wanted to write, but
mm,
I know it took them both different ways to do it, but they both threw this away because they wanted to do the right thing in the end. So it was nice to see that there is this goodness in these characters too, and maybe sort of saying that you do have that ability to follow your dreams. You're just going to have to challenge yourself a little bit more to try something different or do something a little bit differently than that way that you're told is the way that you should be doing it in the workforce.
yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely, mate. I
Yeah.
think you're right.
Yeah, I did like, as much as Duncan and Becca as side sort of friends. I thought that they were nice, had nice little quibs every now and then to sort of support the two main characters
Mm,
along the way. So that was nice too. And I did like this. Like there's this idea of love too. They do this really well where they have these two scenes where they both discuss flaws with each other in this frank sort of way where they're happy to say these are the bad qualities about you. And it was just nice to sort of
it
see
was
that
super
through.
cute, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Because everyone that you love has terrible qualities, and you know those qualities better than anybody else.
Hmm.
And these two characters specifically would be the kind that I would be comfortable calling that stuff out to. So that's where it worked really well too.
Yeah. Have you got anything else on that?
No, I think you sort of nailed it. Just that idea of regardless of what you think you want, don't ever lose sight of what is actually important to you, and that should be your driver more than anything else. And they both
Hmm.
kind of lost sight of that, and it wasn't until they figured it out that they got back on track.
Yeah. Good little summary. All right. So, what did you take away from this one? This is where tell me what are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, firstly, sport in a rom com. Maybe that could be one of the missing ingredients because I think that had a really good place in this film.
Yeah.
But look, I think that Netflix, to their credit, they got the recipe right here. And I'm very critical of them in the rom com and the comedy genre in general because it should be their bread and butter, and I don't think they've really got it right in 90 odd films. But this one they did. Like, it's really light in the sense that I kind of didn't want the bad thing to happen. You know, in all rom coms, when the bad thing happens and they gotta figure out how to get around this or win each other back or whatever it is. I kind of didn't want that to happen because I was just enjoying the ride so much. And when
Mm.
it did, it was still kind of just quick and painless, and they didn't really dwell on it because they just had this chemistry with these characters and just
Yeah.
made it work.
Yeah, super true. That chemistry between the two leads was just so right that when that that inevitable down that they're going to experience, it wasn't as heartbreaking. It didn't bring the tears or the
Mm,
distress that sometimes you do feel in these. There was no death, there was no massive, like, neither of them cheated on each other or anything like that,
yeah.
which gives it that nice sort of up feeling too. But yeah, like, to me, the format sort of followed exactly the way that you expect a film like this to go. And I don't know about you, but I always knew that reverse was going to happen, where the bosses ended up sort of setting them up at the end too. So there
Yeah.
wasn't, yeah. So there wasn't really, yeah, there was no, like, surprise factor for me with the conclusion, which sometimes I like in a film, where you get this little thing that you weren't going to predict will happen, and you're like, it's something, it's going to happen.
I actually didn't see it coming, but it didn't add much. It didn't add much to me either, to be honest. But
No, yeah,
I can honestly see myself coming back to this movie from time to time as a bit of a go-to rom-com.
good.
It's not in the league of definitely maybe, but it's probably like one tier down. This is definitely one of the better romantic comedies I've seen. And like you often mention that I do like romantic comedies. I I am susceptible to them, but there's a lot that I don't like. But if you give me a good one, it really sticks.
Yeah, sorry, I don't mean that you like them. I think it's probably
No,
just
no,
that
but
compared to me, you like
no,
them.
yeah, true. I just want to give this movie the credit that it's not like just because there's a lot that I don't like, but when you get it right, I'll be
Mm.
eating out of your hands, anyway.
Yeah, that
I'll
sounds
be
good. Yeah.
all over it.
I usually struggle with those little analogies,
Yeah.
so it's all good.
What
That
did you
was
say
good.
the other day about dotting your
You don't
I's
know.
and ticking your T's is what you
Yeah.
said.
Thanks for bringing that back up. It's very
Sorry, it's great. I re-listened to it the other day.
all right, so time for our IMDb section, where we discuss if we jumped on to check anyone out in this film, see if we recognize them from anything else. MJ, did you jump on?
Well, I did, and we've spoken about Creepy Tim, who's played by Titus Burgess.
Yep.
Um, he is in Dolomite Is My Name.
With
Um,
Eddie Murphy.
yeah, so recognized him straight away. I thought he's so recognizable that I thought I'd seen him in more, and it doesn't seem like I have. But um, yeah,
Well,
he's got
yeah,
that.
I think you
Got
need to
that.
check out Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. You need to watch the pilot, give it a crack.
Okay,
Just, yeah,
it's a
if you
good
like
show.
him. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoy it. I think it's
Okay,
very funny. It's
okay.
Yeah, it's very good. All right. Yeah, I got on as well.
Yep.
I looked up Zoey Deutch,
Oh,
just
yes.
just because she had this face that was so familiar. And I thought maybe, but she looked a bit like Rose Byrne almost, and there was nothing there that I recognized her from. And then I sort of looked into her bio a little bit further and saw that her mother was Lee Thompson, who plays Lorraine in Back to the Future,
All
and
right.
they are like dead ringers. Like, that's what it was from. She
Ah,
looks exactly like, yeah, like
her mother.
Michael J. Fox's mother. Yeah, the mother. Oh my god, it was great. So yeah, she looked exactly like her. So
Zoe
great.
Deutch is great. She's in Everybody Wants Some, which is Richard Linklater film. So is Glen Powell actually, and that's another reason why I love Glen Powell because he's awesome in that movie. She's in that. She's really good. She's in Why Him, that one with Bryan Cranston
Okay.
and James Franco.
Yep.
She's in Before I Fall. I think she's got a decent career ahead of her.
Hmm. Yeah, good. In that, hopefully she doesn't get typecast into the same sort of role, and she gets an opportunity to give something else a crack. That'd be nice.
Well, she's on a Linklater film, so she's all right.
Good. All right, questions. Have you got any questions for me?
Yeah, I do. How close did these two work together, and why did it take them so long to actually meet? Because it seems like there's a lot of time where they were the only two in the office, and they might have been doing this for a couple of years, and they never bumped
Very
into
good
each other.
question. Very good question. Especially if they're, both expected to provide multiple meals for their bosses and
Yeah,
running in and out all the time in the middle of the night. You think that maybe they would have bumped into each other at some stage.
because as soon as they knew each other, it was every day, bang, bang, bang. So,
Yeah. Nah, good point. Very good point. Hey, it's a rom com. You just got to get into the feels. Get into the
oh,
feels.
for sure, it did. It certainly didn't affect my watching of it, but it got me questioning, and that's why I wanted to ask you.
Yeah. I was going to ask you. So Charlie makes a comment that no one likes work. Do you agree with him?
Of course not,
Because I don't. I don't. I definitely don't agree with him. Because I think that he's just in the wrong career. To be honest, like,
for
he just
sure.
needs to find a career that he's got that passion about.
But there's a lot of Charlies out there. There's a lot of
Mm.
people that finish school and go to uni or college or whatever it is, and start working in the field they think they should be working in, and they don't enjoy it, but they just assume that's what work is. And
Mm,
there's the whole line of, if you love your job, you don't work a day in your life. Now, I've never found that job, but I've always enjoyed the jobs that I've done to a
mm,
good enough extent that I want to keep doing them. And until I stop enjoying them, I'll keep doing it. And then if not, I'll find something else. But a lot of people
good.
are like that, though.
Yep, good answer. I liked it. I'm glad we both agreed on that. The
Yeah.
other one, the only other one I had for you was like, do you find it hard to discuss flaws when you love someone with that person? Because it was
They were
pretty easy for
at
these two. It was very easy for the both of them to do that
they
in
were
this
at a
film.
fun point of their relationship, though. They were
Mm.
at. I agree. I'm not gonna finish recording this and wander over to my wife and go, by the way, you do this, this, and this, and there's all really, really shit things. But they were kind of at that point where, and they were both also doing it off the back of that engagement speech,
Mm.
where it was kind of a thing, and that was the thing of, by the way, this is how much I love you, because I accept the fact that you do this, this, and this. So it kind of had that double meaning at the time. It wasn't just saying, "Oh, you wear a suit to sports games," which is, come on, mate. If you don't have to, don't do it. It wasn't that as much as it was um, like actually having a dig at each other and then
Well,
being cool
yeah,
enough to
but
comfortable enough.
if they're setting up their relationship on these things that they're saying, these are things that might come back to them later on. That they're like, I remember when you said this about me. I can just imagine these little arguments or
Not these two,
arising later
Jesse.
on. Nah, they're too
These two are my
perfect.
dream couple. Yeah.
Good. All right. Are we ready to wrap this one up?
I think so.
All right, good. So at the end of our discussion, we give the films that we discuss a rating out of 5, and then average it out for a Flix Forum average. So MJ, what are you going to give this one?
I just had so much fun watching this movie. It was light, it was funny, it had a small sports link, but most importantly, it had the charisma and chemistry from Glen Powell and Zoey Deutch that not only made me want them to end up together, it made me want to be friends with them. And that's not, you don't get that out of films a lot. Every now and then you want to be in the film. You might want to be doing something. Like, I think when you watch Fame, for example, you want to go to that school and do that performing, and there's certain teams that you want to be involved in, like if you're watching Friday Night Lights or something. But I wanted to be friends with this couple, and that's a pretty big thing to take out of a film.
Yeah.
It is a comfortable 4 stars for me.
Very nice. That's yeah, it's very very high. I like it. It's good. I think that I've given a couple of 4s out recently and you haven't, so it's nice to see you bumping
We're
this one
back.
up.
This
We're
is a
back.
belter. This is top tier.
Good. Well, yeah, for me, this one, like I said, the performances were really good. And I think if you're in the mood for this nice, feel good sort of love story where you're happy to know what's going to happen early on, but still continue through with it, I think that this is good, a good one, and it might work for you. But for me, that side of things probably let it down a little bit for me. So I am giving it a 2.5 out of 5,
Did you
which
find it
brings it
funny?
just that one scene. That was the only one thing that I found
Yeah,
funny.
right.
So,
Okay.
yeah, so that brings it to an average of a 3.25. So still fairly decent score, but sorry for bringing it down a little bit more than
Don't apologize. I,
usual.
I I appreciate the fact that it wasn't for you, but you could still see what was good about it.
Yeah, I'm not going to give it like a 1 or anything like that. I think
Yeah.
it's still a decent film. So yeah, 2.5 out of 5 for me. So we're on social media. We have Facebook, we have Twitter, we have Instagram. We're on there. Please
Oh
give us
yeah.
some likes, some follows, whatever you can.
Yep.
Pop a question up for the week, something just for us to discuss at the end. So, have you ever set anyone up, and how did it go?
Ooh.
Because I haven't, but I know my wife's given it a crack a couple of times. Nothing too successful really, but sometimes you like to hear those stories where, oh yeah, I was the one that got these people together, sort of thing. So
Yeah. It's
yeah,
not a very male thing to do. I've certainly not done it myself either, and
yeah.
I don't think to do it either.
Nah, good. All right, so we're back again next week. We have another film to discuss next week, and do you want to have
We
a
do.
guess what the genre next week may be? Just a guess out of any genre you could guess. What do you reckon it might be?
Well, I'll be honest. I have no idea what we're doing next week, and
Good.
I am guessing the fact that you're asking me is probably because it's another rom com.
Correct. Very good. I'm glad that you picked up on that cue. So we do have a rom com next week. It's a French rom com though, from
Oh,
2018. So it's called To Each Her Own. It's directed by Miriam Aziza, and it stars Sarah Stern, Jean Christophe Folly, and Julian Piaton. So that's what we've got next week, a French rom-com.
This would be our third French film.
We have
And
Blockbuster and
there was
I'm not the
I'm Not
male
an Easy
one.
Man.
I'm not
I'm
an
Not
easy
an
man.
Easy
Yeah.
Man. So would you?
Yeah.
This is our third French, and they're all kind of rom-coms.
Yeah. So
Although we haven't watched this one yet, it might not be as rom-commy as they say it is on
true.
IMDb.
But yeah, we'll see how we go. So we'll have a chat about that one next week. And as
We will.
usual, thanks for joining me for another good chat, MJ. I'm glad that you
Oh, mate, you're
enjoyed this
welcome.
one.
I have been hanging out. I watched this probably like 3 days ago, and I just wanted to talk about it. So thank you for
Good.
indulging me.
Nah, anytime. And I'll see you next week.
See you then, mate.